Welcome to A&B Horror Movies. I'm Aaron, and I'm very excited to be joined today by Stephen Kostanski. Stephen, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I can't wait to chat with you about your films, starting with your newest film, which is Frankie Freako, a wild, insanely entertaining film that just came out. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I mean, it was oh, nice. You got
I'll show the
the
cover.
Blu-ray there, Shout Factory Blu-ray. I gotta say, it was very
Yes.
generous of Shout Factory to
Mhm.
finance such a wacky premise of a movie. Um, yeah, it's just my love
Yes.
letter to kind of like little shithead monster movies where it's just little creatures terrorizing people for 80 plus minutes. And yeah,
Of
yeah,
course.
it's a ton of fun to make, and I'm glad that it seems to have landed with the right people. There's definitely a gap in genre cinema right now for little monster movies. I've been saying that for I feel like a decade now,
Hmm, hmm.
and I'm glad to have contributed to it in some small way.
Excellent. I can't wait to chat with you about this film. Like I said, congratulations. Your resume is quite impressive. There are a lot of other films that you've done that I love, and I can't wait to chat with you about those as well. I'll try to keep it within a reasonable time limit today. But first off, you wrote and directed Psycho Goreman, another favorite of mine. Got the
Yes,
steelbook right here. You also co-wrote and co-directed The Void that came out in
yes,
2016. I have an Italian import here.
pretty sweet. I'm jealous of all these Blu-rays you have. I don't even have those copies, so
Oh, it was fantastic. I've got even more. I was really excited. One, I was excited to chat with you, and two, I was excited to get a lot of these movies off the shelves and share with you. You also did Father's Day in 2011, and you are an effects artist, and you've worked on countless films, including a little film that just came out in the last year called In a Violent Nature. So some of the horror fans watching may have heard of that one. Love that movie. Congrats on that. You've also done Crimson Peak, It, Clown, just to name a few. And I've got the full list that if I have time, I'll run through. But let's jump right into Frankie Freako. Again, congrats on that film. So my first question is for you is how did this wildly fun film come about? Because it's very different than some of your other films that you've done. Can you talk a little bit about the origins of Frankie Freako?
I mean, this movie came about because I was in the process of getting my next movie, Deathstalker, off the ground, and
Mhm.
due to a few scheduling issues and like financing taking longer than we wanted it to, I basically had a year gap in my schedule, and I thought like I don't want to just sit around and do effects work during that time. I want to make something. I was itching to make another movie, like after
Mhm.
PG. It was like kind of peak pandemic time, so I didn't really like jump into another feature immediately after I worked on directing episodes of the Sci-Fi Channel series Day of the Dead. But then after that, it was
Yes.
just a few music videos and smaller things, and I just really wanted to make a movie, and I was sick of waiting around. So I had been talking with a few of my film friends, Conor Sweeney, who stars in the film, but also Pierce
Mhm.
Dirks, who's the director of photography, and just talking about really wanting to make a little monster movie and wishing that there were more of those around in the genre space. Currently, it's something that kind of acts as like the antithesis to modern horror, which I feel like is very prestige based right now. Uh,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
feel like the horror genre, you need variety more than anything. That's what I grew up on. Going to
Yes.
the video stores, I love that on
Excuse me.
the same shelf that had The Shining could also have Ghoulies Go to College. Like, I love what an incredible mix of creativity the genre is, and
Yes.
I just wanted to like contribute something that maybe wasn't for everybody, but definitely appeals to a specific set of genre fans. And that's the
Mhm.
like little shithead monster movie where it's like little weird puppets terrorizing people uh, for a feature length runtime.
Oh yeah, and who doesn't love little monsters? I think you nailed it. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. So nicely done there. You mentioned Conor Sweeney, so you worked with him on Father's Day, on PG. What was it like teaming up with him again to make Frankie Freako? Because he is the star. non-puppet star in the film.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've wanted to continue my working relationship with Connor like
Mhm.
since we founded Astron 6, like Adam Brooks, uh, Jeremy Gillespie, Matt Kennedy, Conor Sweeney, and myself. Like this is back
Yes.
what
Okay.
2006, 2007. Like the five of us making movies together. Uh, like we had a fun little thing going for a while, and Connor was always a very like funny part of it. And I felt like I never really had the opportunity to just have one on one with him and just work with
Hmm.
him directly. And so we were shooting a merchandise commercial for PG that was just Connor, and it was just him riffing for the whole commercial. So we shot for an afternoon, and it was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of laughs. And it was after doing that, I was like, man, I'd love to just like put this guy front and center in something because his like comic timing is so great. His reactions to situations is fun, and like for me as a filmmaker, I really love putting actors in a situation where it's like them versus creatures that I've created. And I feel like a lot of my movies are just that if you like break it down to its simplest form. It's just like actors having to deal with rubber puppet things and makeups and stuff that I've come up with. So
Yes.
this Frankie Freako seemed like a good opportunity to pit Connor against a bunch of my creations. And so my cinematographer Pierce Dirks had been streaming a bunch of little monster movies, so we all started riffing on, well, like what's our version of like a Ghoulies Go to College or Critters or Gremlins 2 is
Hmm.
a big influence specifically because that one is
Of
just such a
course. Yeah.
go for broke crazy movie that
Hmm.
really is like unashamedly goofy. And so we wanted that element, like the feeling of like just when you think the movie's gotten to its stupidest level, it gets stupider. And we wanted Frankie Freako to have that vibe. So yeah, that's kind of how this
Yes.
all came about, was just this desire to make a silly, fun movie with Connor getting beaten up by little puppets.
Oh, of course. And it's such a fun watch. I think you did a really nice job with that. And once you get into sort of the world of Frankie Freako and go with it, it's a great time. I really enjoyed it. So you mentioned the puppetry because there are a number of puppets in this film, and you have used elements of that in your previous films, but maybe not as much as you do in Frankie Freako. So what were some of the challenges of really diving into the whole puppetry aspect?
I mean, this movie, it was a tight timeline to get this thing together. Like I put the script down on uh on the producer's desks like December 2022, and we were shooting the movie April 2023. So like I
Wow.
basically had to put all the puppet stuff together in about like 8 9 weeks, and nobody on my team had made a movie like this, made these kinds of puppets. So we really were just making it up as we went along. And there's all sorts of challenges that came with that. It was had definitely had some of the most frustrating moments I've had making a movie. Puppets are not an easy thing. There's a lot of like easy mistakes you can make doing it for the first time that we 100%
Mm.
made that I will not make going forward. Um, but yeah, it was all just a
Okay.
big learning experience, and it helps that we committed to kind of a janky vibe right from the beginning. Like part of what I love about puppet movies or movies that have puppets,
Sure.
especially budget movies, is that some they don't always work and they're not always convincing. And for me, the joy of it is watching an actor try to carry a scene acting against something that's like clearly twitching at
Inanimate,
it.
right?
Yeah, an inanimate object that's not
Right.
really not selling it completely. And so we leaned into that with the movie, and I think it leads to a lot of like really funny stuff. Like it was the reason why there's a moment later in the movie where Frankie, the character of Christina, is talking to Frankie, and
Hmm.
uh, it's a very like supposed to be this very like serious, heartfelt moment, but we cut to Frankie just sitting there motionless, like mouth agape, eyes open, doing nothing, like literally just static. And it's like one of the funniest moments in the movie to me, and it just encapsulates everything I love about this type of movie. Is like people trying to sell sell realism in a thing that's completely not real. Yeah,
Yeah, I just wanted to show what Frankie Freako looks like for those who aren't familiar with the film.
he's a
Um,
real cool dude.
he's very cool. Yeah, he's the life of the party, 100%. Um, let's see. So I know that Frankie Freako has been in the festival circuit in the last few months. What has it been like watching your film with a live audience and getting their feedback? What has that been like as a filmmaker?
I mean, it's a very audience interactive
Mm.
experience, that movie,
Yeah.
and I it's my only movie that I like watching with an audience because there's moments that are so like obnoxiously absurd and that are like kind of deliberate FUs to the audience in a way that
Yep.
I like watching the audience react. Like like hearing people react to certain moments in the climax that I won't spoil. Like the last I love
No
watching
spoilers.
people watch the last like 10 minutes because
Yeah.
so much happens, so much is revealed. The whole movie is like unraveled in a way that makes zero sense. But the
Hmm.
characters are pretending like, oh yeah, this is yeah, what a what an interesting twist to this story. And watching an audience react to that is so funny to me. Being like, what? This is the resolution to this story. I just
Yeah.
maybe it's just me being a troll, but I really, really enjoy watching this movie with an audience and watch them like laugh, but also get a little frustrated with where things go in the clip.
Yeah, I must say when I was watching it, I had no idea where it was going to end, how it was going to end. I thought maybe everything would get fixed somehow. You know, they've done that in a lot of movies. I will say that the ending that you did go with, I didn't see coming, and I thought it worked so well. I was laughing. I can't wait to rewatch, actually. I sort of have a fun question. Will there be any merch or collectibles associated with Frankie
We are
Freako? Maybe
working on merch.
bobbleheads would be cool.
We have some merch in the works. I actually have to ship off some heads, some of the like Frankie heads to a company,
Oh,
hopefully next
cool.
week, because they'll use them as a reference for making some merchandise. I can't like officially
You
announce
can't say I don't want to
that,
put you on the spot. Yeah.
but I will say there is stuff coming, and then also we have a video game in the works for Frankie that's like a prequel to the movie.
Oh,
That's all
cool.
about Frankie, Dottie, and Boink escaping Freak World, and so it'll be like a kind of retro side-scrolling platformer. And
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm very it's the most excited I've ever been for like any kind of merch for one of my things because I'm a real video game guy, and
Yeah, yeah.
to tap into that market finally is like it's a real
Hmm.
achievement for me. I feel like all my movies need to be video games because I have a video game brain. When I'm writing and making my movies, it's I'm following video game logic anyways, so it
I
makes
could
sense to
see
go in.
that. Yeah. Yeah, Psycho Goreman would be great as a video game.
Well, my hope for PG was to make it a. I wanted to make a fighting game out of PG. I feel like that's
Yes,
yeah,
that would be awesome with all the weapons and the different, like the evil characters too.
yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of
that would be
variety, and like it would be
awesome.
fun to have
Mhm.
all the aliens, but then also have some of the human characters as well. Like have the dad, like Adam's character, be a selectable fighting character would be great.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love the dad's character. Adam Brooks is
Yeah,
hysterical, and he's also really funny in Frankie Freako.
yeah.
Maybe we could go
He
ahead.
keeps wanting me to make him look cool in movies, and I keep doing the exact opposite. I feel bad how I make him look in Frankie because I give him like a Steven Seagal ponytail and goatee,
I
and
did notice that. Yes, yes.
he yeah he was not too impressed with my wardrobe and design choices.
And then there's sort of a sticky situation he gets
Yeah,
into, but no
yeah, which
spoilers there.
for an actor is not a particularly fun thing to be stuck in for the better chunk of a day.
I,
But
I did wonder that, yeah, just lying on the floor. But again, no spoilers. I do have a couple questions for you about Psycho Goreman, but first,
yes,
Frankie Freako, it's streaming. You can get a physical copy. Highly recommend this one. Before I ask you some questions about Psycho Goreman, there is one line that Adam Brooks has in the entire movie that I love, and I think it's when PG says something like "an eternity of servitude," and he says it's like being married to you, Susan. I love that moment. I love that moment. So it's not really a question. I just wanted to share that with you.
His
Um,
character in that is so, yeah, pathetic and sad, but like relatably pathetic. Like,
yes, oh, it's hysterical. He
I mean,
steals the moment at times too.
yeah,
Um,
the very
that when
Asterix
there's the
character.
hole in the ground, he's like, "Who? Let's vote who's going to dig and then or
Yeah.
bury it, fill it in." And anyway, I love this film. So, did you expect PG to have such a huge following and grow such a fan base and be so popular?
No, I mean, I don't go into any of my movies expecting anything. Like, I kind of just make them because I want to make them. Like,
Fair enough. Yep.
I everything I want to do in film is like it all just goes back to the same thing, which is I'm trying to fulfill my childhood desire to make my own video store shelf of movies that I can go
Yes.
to and be
Hmm.
like, I've made every subgenre that I want to make a movie in, and it's
Hmm.
all on the shelf there. It's like I'm trying to make the movies that as a kid I thought I was going to be watching as an adult, and not to
Yeah.
say that there are awesome movies coming out all the time that I love, but there's like types of genre movies I thought I'd see more of that I'm not getting. So that's why I'm trying to tackle every every sort of like nook and cranny within the horror, sci-fi, fantasy genre that I can. Um, and so every movie, I'm trying to
Excellent.
not stay while I'm staying in the genre space. Every movie's like a little different and like covering a different aspect of it. So yeah, with PG's success, I wasn't definitely was not expecting that. I was pretty bummed out when our premiere was canceled because of COVID. Like it came out peak
Yeah.
COVID time,
Hmm. Hmm.
so
I remember that.
we
Yes.
didn't get like really a theatrical release. It just went straight to VOD and then went
Right.
to physical and then streaming. But people latched onto it, and maybe it hit at just
Hmm.
the exact right time when people wanted a fun movie. But yeah, it like really took off and got a lot of traction, and I'm super grateful for people embracing it in the way that they
Hmm.
did. It was satisfying because that was like I don't know if I want to call it like a personal movie, but it was very much just like every creative instinct I had thrown into a movie, and I felt like, oh, is this like too weird or too fantastical or too silly at times? And so the fact that it all seemed to line up for people and there was a desire for that exact type of movie is a little validating for me as a filmmaker because
Hmm.
you never know, like, is everything I like dumb? Like, am I just like wasting my time trying to make my silly genre movies? So the fact that it connected with people as much as it did is like nice and validating and motivates me to keep making movies.
Yes, and please do. And what I love about all of your films that I've seen um, is that they're each very different. So sometimes you have a filmmaker and their films tend to be the same.
Yeah.
Yours are very different, but almost stylistically the same. So you can tell that they are your films. So I say, please making more. I know you have a new one coming out. The name escapes me at the moment. What is it?
Deathstalker.
Deathstalker. I'm sorry. Yes, I know that's in the works. But I'll ask you about that in a moment.
Yep.
So back to PG, heavily in the prosthetics, right, and the effects there. What was it like with the process and the timing to get all of the prosthetics ready? Matthew Ninaber,
Ninaber.
Ninaber. Okay, I got it right. What was the process like to get him into PG, into Psycho Gorman?
I mean, it's like pretty standard creature suit stuff. Like it was a full suit
Mhm.
that just like he steps into and zips up the back.
Oh, okay.
And it was a cowl and a makeup that he would wear. So that had to be glued down and blended off every day, which was time consuming and definitely took its toll on his skin after a while, like it does on anybody. Like
Oh, of course. Yeah.
nobody's meant to have stuff glued to their face every day. So eventually your body tells you that's had enough. But he
Yes.
was a real trooper about it. He was a lot of fun working, like to work with, and like I just feel like he physically brought so much to the role. Like his look
Mm.
really entertained me, and his mannerisms were so great. And he was so good with the
Yeah.
kids too, with Nina and Owen. Uh,
Yeah, he's so good.
Nina.
There's a picture of them. Um, yeah, he was perfect for this role. But when you were making it, did you think that you were creating something special? Could you Could you tell that the stars were aligning for this film?
It just felt like everybody was having fun, and as hard as it
Mhm.
was, like, because every movie's hard and a nightmare in its own way, but like
Yeah, of course.
the team was fun. And yeah, like when we were filming, like it felt like things were clicking in a really funny way that
Mhm.
made me feel like, okay, I'm gonna keep going at this because something here is working. And
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, with all my movies, I never really have that moment of like being worried that something's not lining up. I don't know. I just plow ahead, and like the more absurd
Keep
things get, the
keep
happier I am.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's like if I'm getting bored, then it's a problem. But
Mm.
I usually write movies where every shooting day there's something crazy on the call sheet that everyone's like, I can't wait till we get to that head explosion or this creature showing up. Uh, yeah, and it's like a
Makes
good reason
sense.
to keep your crew engaged and boost morale because it's like you're not shooting a
Yep.
Hallmark movie. It's not people sitting in front of a fire talking about their feelings.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, you got a monster guy with a meat sword fighting a robot lady with a laser sword. There's like
It's
just crazy
fantastic.
shit
It's
happening all the time.
yes,
Like that, I think
yes.
that is just my creative process is just keep shit crazy always, and you'll always be happy and you'll always be having fun.
Awesome. Do you think Matthew would play the role again if we ever got
I
a
think so. I
sequel?
just would love to like pay everyone properly. That's why we haven't had a PG-2 right out of the gate because like honestly, it just doesn't seem like there's
Hmm.
money for this type of genre movie the way there needs to be. That first one was a labor of love
Okay.
across the board. Everyone invested their time in it for way less money than they should have. So my attitude is like, well, yeah, let's do it again, but let's do it properly or not do it at all because yeah, I've had my fill of making movies where I got to beg, borrow, steal to make things happen, and I would love to just, uh,
Mhm.
yeah, somebody pony up the money to do it properly. So that's kind of what I'm holding out for.
Well, hopefully, maybe one day.
Yeah.
I do have a quick question for you about The Void, sort of a sci-fi monster film, a little darker than your other movies, at least
Yes.
the two we've talked about.
Well, I mean, a lot of that is because I like co-wrote, co-directed with Jeremy Gillespie, and I feel like a lot of
Yes.
his influence and his vision is all over that movie. Very much like a collaborative effort, but he just brought a lot visually to the table, being an art director himself. So, yeah, very much Jeremy's fingerprints are like all over that thing.
All
Hence,
over that
hence it
film.
feeling so off from everything else that I've made.
I see. Okay. So, well, what was it like collaborating with him on the film compared to, being the sole director on the other films you worked on?
I mean, it wasn't easy. It was like an early stage in my career, so like collaborating on that level was tough for both of us, I think.
Mhm.
But like we got along fine. It was really just everything about the movie, everything else around the movie was a complete nightmare for us. So it was
Okay.
like that was really our apocalypse now, in
Ah,
terms
I
of like
see.
how hellish making a movie can get.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult production from start to finish. But I mean, when things were good and when things were like connecting, we really had a good time and found ways to keep ourselves entertained.
Mm.
And yeah, I think like our two distinct creative voices uh, alternating between connecting and clashing led to something that's pretty interesting and unique, I think.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it has a following as well. So
Yeah.
there you have it. I do want to get to this or that because we always do that in our videos. But before we do, I mentioned that you are an effects artist. You worked on many films in a violent nature. I mentioned It, Suicide Squad, Crimson Peak, Clown. You worked on the Hannibal series, which I love that show. Silent Hill Revelation, Resident Evil Retribution, Wrong Turn 4, Father's Day, Nurse, which is another one. Father's Day is an excellent film if you haven't watched this one. The Haunting in Connecticut, and even what
I
is it,
mean,
Camera. So my question for you, I mean, first of all, that's amazing. All these films, I
I mean
love
that's
them all. But go
I
ahead.
should I should just point out that like me working on those movies is me being like a journeyman freelance effects artist. So it's really the
Of
credit
course.
should go to all the effect shops that I worked for, uh, like Doug Morrow in Winnipeg, Paul Jones Effects in Toronto, Mind Warp Effects in
Team
Toronto.
effort. Yes.
Uh, Team effort, and also just like these people are all very generous to hire me onto these projects. Masters Effects was my first like
Okay.
big movie, which was Haunting in Connecticut, working for Todd Masters, and then,
Yep.
funnily enough, like cut to a decade later, and he opens a shop in Toronto, and I start working for him
I know.
uh,
Yes.
in
Okay.
Toronto again on other projects. So we've had a very long history together. The Canadian film industry, the like effects community is pretty small, so everybody knows everybody, and so
Okay.
it's me getting such a long list of credits as a result of me just bouncing from one shop to the next. Uh, some shows I'm on for like a week, some shows I'm on for 4 or 5 months. It's all very random, but yeah,
Of course.
I've been blessed to be able to work on so many
So
fun
many
movies, such
films.
a diverse filmography of
Mhm,
movies.
mhm. It's very impressive. If you had to choose, is there one that you would say, even if you only worked on it for a short amount of time, that was your favorite movie to work on?
I mean, I had a lot of fun on it just because it was a
Mhm.
small team,
Yeah,
and
okay.
it was just like a nice group of people. Uh, I mean, I don't know. They all have their ups and downs. Like it's hard work. People don't really point out like what a grind the film industry is enough in these conversations. But like working in prosthetics, when you're in a shop, like it's a lot of technical work. It's a lot of molding, casting, like unglamorous jobs. So it really comes down to who you're around those like 12 to 14 hours a day. And that team on it was a fun group of people, and we all got along really well. And it was over the summer too. Like I think we were kind of wrapping up on Void stuff. And
Mhm.
so it was a nice break to actually just go and get a paycheck and make some fun things on a pretty cool movie. So yeah, that one was a highlight for me. But again, all of them I have very fond memories of. Resident Evil Retribution was a fun one working for Paul Jones in his shop. Just I don't know, being able to work on video game movies is always exciting for me.
Yes.
I love
Oh,
video games. So, yeah,
that's awesome. Um, all right, let's do some this or that questions. So these are kind of fun. I ask you two things, you just pick one or the other. Okay,
sure.
ready? No pressure. Um, Puppet Master or Demonic Toys?
Puppet Master,
Yeah, of course.
no problem.
Let's see, the Monster Squad or the Gate?
Monster Squad.
Yeah, both great films, but I'd probably do that
I
too.
know that's a weird choice to have to make
Yes, of course.
because
Let's see, movie at home or in the theater?
that depends on my mood. But I'm gonna say movie at home because I got a pretty good setup going at home right now that I like a lot.
Okay, cool. Let's see, RoboCop or Terminator?
No, I'm not even going to answer that question because I
Okay, you could
love
say
both of those movies. I'm going to say
both.
RoboCop and Terminator. That's my answer.
Okay, that works. Let's see, zombies or werewolves? Kind of a fun one.
Zombies,
Zombies, all right. Um, Physical or streaming media?
physical.
Of course, that's the right one. Um, Critters 2 or Gremlins 2?
I'm going to say Gremlins 2 just because that movie's so huge and crazy, but that's not to
Yeah.
diminish Critters 2,
Mhm.
which is a great movie. I love it.
Similar feel, I find, when you watch both of them. A
Well, they
perfect
both,
double feature,
that
right?
is a good double feature. Like, Critters 2 definitely ups the ante, just not to
Mhm.
the full extent that Gremlins 2 does. Gremlins 2 is like,
Yes.
gets so big it's insane how
Yeah,
big
absolutely.
that movie is.
Okay, let's see. Muppets or Fraggle Rock?
Muppets,
Muppets, yeah. Ghoulies or Hobgoblins?
Ghoulies.
Ghoulies, of
The
course, yeah.
Hobgoblins didn't go to college. Keep that in
That's
mind.
true. That's true. Good point. I don't think they really went very far after the whole bar
Yeah,
incident.
exactly.
Um, Labyrinth or Dark Crystal?
I'm gonna say Dark Crystal.
Yeah, I do like them both, but I loved
Yeah,
that one as a
it's
kid.
like a tough choice to make, but they're
I
both
tr
super imaginative.
yeah,
That's a good double bill as well.
absolutely. I tried to put in some sort of puppetry little monsters theme here. Megan or Annabelle, newer films.
I'd say Megan.
Hmm. We're getting a sequel too. And then lastly, Jaws or Halloween 78.
That's I don't know. That's a weird choice to have to make. I'm gonna say Jaws just because I feel like if I don't say Jaws, everybody
Yep.
in the Toronto effects community is gonna beat me to death. Because it's just an entire team of Jaws heads. So, and it's also kind of hard to argue with Jaws. I feel like even if
True.
you asked Carpenter that question, he'd probably still say Jaws. So,
Yes,
yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So I must say the reason why we asked that is because Halloween is my favorite movie, and my co-host Ben, who couldn't be here today, unfortunately, is Jaws is his favorite movie. So we
I mean,
always throw that in at the end. And a few
I mean,
people have chosen Halloween. Not many,
I mean,
but some.
full disclosure, like, yeah, if I actually had to watch one or the other, like, or which one do I watch more? I watch Halloween more, way more.
Mhm.
But
Yes,
I have to respect like film culture and film history, and like, there's
of
a
course.
possibility Halloween wouldn't exist without Jaws because Jaws just
Excellent point.
it
Yes.
Jaws just did so much for the genre, uh, and it's just such a perfect movie across the board. I think yeah, I got it. Jaws just edges out Halloween, but that's not throwing any shade on Halloween, which is a perfect movie and one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I hear you. So both, I guess, for that.
You know,
Um,
yeah, maybe that one I would just say both. Both is
both.
fine.
Okay. Fair enough. That works. Well, Stephen, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. Make sure to check out Frankie Freako. There it is again. Um, my last question for you before we go is how can folks find you on social media if you
I
want them
have,
to?
yeah, I mean, I have an Instagram account, Kill Kostanski,
Mhm.
that I post usually my movie related stuff on. That's like the main spot to see me now. If you want to see what I'm up to, I usually post little teases of things I'm making at the shop.
Cool.
Little, especially teases regarding Deathstalker, my upcoming films. So yeah, go there to get your Kostansky fix.
Yes. Awesome. And that's how you and I connected, and that's how this came about. So thank you again for chatting with us today. If you are watching, like and subscribe because it helps our channel. And thank you again, Stephen, for joining us. And hopefully, this will get even more of an audience for your film, Frankie Freako, and your other films as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.